I kindly request each one of you to concentrate at the center of your heart center. Let us chant Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri Arvindaya. Om Namo Nama Mirambikaye. O Lord, with full faith, love and surrender, we are ready for Thy victory. Mantras of the Mother, prayers and meditation. March 12th, 1914. O Lord, my one aspiration is to know Thee and serve Thee better every day. What do outer circumstances matter? They seem to me each day more vain and illusory, and I take less and less interest in what is going to happen to us in the outer life. But more and more am I intensely interested in the one thing which seems important to me: to know Thee better in order to serve Thee better. All outer events must converge upon this goal and this goal alone. And for that, all depends upon the attitude we have towards them. To seek Thee constantly in all things, to want to manifest Thee ever better in every circumstance, in this attitude lies supreme peace, perfect serenity, true contentment. In it life blossoms, widens, expands so magnificently in such majestic waves that no storm can any longer disturb it. O Lord, Thou art our safeguard, our only happiness. Thou art our resplendent light, our pure love, our hope, and our strength. Thou art our life, the reality of our being. In a reverent and joyful adoration, I bow to Thee. Translations from Sanskrit. The Birth of the War God by Sri Aurobindo. Pure Spirit, who wast before creation woke, calm violence, destroyer, gulf of soul. One, though divided in Thy own conceit, Brahma, we see Thee here, who from Thy deeps of memory rescuest forgotten time. We see Thee, Yogin, on the solemn snows, Shiva withdrawing into Thy hush, the word, which sang the feet of the speeding stars. They pass like moths into Thy flaming gaze. We adore Thee, Vishnu, whose eternal steps to Thee are casual footprints, yet Thy small base for luminous systems, measureless to our mind, whose difficult touch thy light and happy smile sustains. O wide discoverer of space, to thee our adoration, triune form. Imagining her triple mood, thou gavest to thy illimitable nature play. When nothing was except thy lonely soul, in the ocean of thy being, then thou sowedst thy seed, infallible, O Spirit unborn, and from that seed a million unlike forms thou variously hast made. Thy world that moves and breathes, thy world inconscient and inert, what are they but a corner of thy life? Thou hast made them and preservest. If thou slayest, it is thy greatness, Lord. Mysterious source of all, from thee we draw this light of mind, this mighty stirring and these failings dark. In thee we live, by thee act thy thoughts. Thou grewest thyself a woman and divine. Thou grewest vain who wert the formless one. In one soul body thou wert Lord and Spouse, to found the bliss which by division joins. Then borest thy being, a spirit who is man. All are thy creatures, in the meeting vast of thy swift nature, with thy brilliant mind, thou madest thy children, man and beast and God. Thy days and nights are numberless aeons. When thou sleepest, all things sleep, O conscient God. Thy waking is a birth of countless souls. Thou art the womb from which all life arose. But who begot thee? Thou the ender of things, but who has known thy end? Beginningless. All our beginnings are thy infant powers. Thou governest their middle and their close. But over thee, where is thy ruler, Lord? None knoweth this. Alone thou knowest thyself. burning brazier, prayer, to be the divine love, love powerful, infinite, unfathomable in every activity, in all the worlds of being. It is for this I cry to thee, O Lord. Let us be consumed with this love divine, love powerful, infinite, unfathomable in every activity, in all the worlds of being. Transmute us into that burning brazier so that all the atmosphere of earth may be purified with its flame. Oh, to be thy love infinitely. On Thoughts and Aphorisms, Volume 10. (108). When he watched the actions of Janaka, even Narada, the divine sage, thought him a luxurious worldling and libertine. Unless thou canst see the soul, how shalt thou say that man is free or bound? This raises all sorts of questions. For example, how is it that Narada could not see the soul? For me, it is very simple. Narada was a demigod. He belonged to the overmind world and he was able to materialize himself, but these beings have no psychic. The gods do not have within them the divine spark, which is the core of the psychic, because only on earth, I am not even speaking of the material universe, only on earth did this descent of divine love take place, which was the origin of the divine presence in the core of matter. And naturally, since they have no psychic being, they do not know the psychic being. Some of these beings have even wanted to take a physical body so as to have the experience of the psychic being, but not many of them. As a rule, they did it only partially, through an emanation, not a total descent. For example, Vivekananda is said to have been an incarnation, a vibhuti of Shiva. But Shiva himself has clearly expressed his will to come down on earth only with the supramental world. When the earth is ready for the supramental life, he will come. And almost all these beings will manifest. They are waiting for that moment. They do not want any of the present struggle and the obscurity. Certainly, Narada was one of those who came here. In fact, it is for fun. He liked to play with circumstances, but he had no knowledge of the psychic being and that must have prevented him from recognizing the psychic being where it existed. But all these things cannot be explained. They are personal ideas and experiences. This knowledge is not objective enough to be taught. One can say nothing about a phenomenon which depends on one's personal experience and which has a value only for the person who has the experience. What Sri Aurobindo said is based on the traditional learning of India, and he spoke of what agreed with his own experience. So, to see the soul, one must know one's own soul. Yes, to be in relation with the soul, that is, the psychic being, one must have a psychic being oneself. And only men who belong to the evolution, who are sons of the terrestrial creation, possess a psychic being. None of these gods has a psychic being. It is only by coming down and uniting with the psychic being of a man that they can have one, but they have none themselves. 12th January 1965. Complete Works of Mother. Chapter 27. The Gnostic Being, Life Divine. At the summit of being is the Absolute, with its absolute freedom of infinity, but also its absolute truth of itself and power of the truth of being. These two things repeat themselves in the life of the spirit in supernature. All action, there is the action of Supreme Self, the Supreme Ishvara, in the truth of the supernature. It is at once the truth of the being of the Self and the truth of the will of the Ishvara, one with that truth, a biune reality, which expresses itself in each individual Gnostic being according to his supernature. The freedom of the Gnostic individual is freedom of his spirit to fulfill dynamically the truth of his being and the power of his energies in life. But this is synonymous with an entire obedience of his nature to the truth of self manifested in his existence and to the will of the divine in him and all. This all will is one in each Gnostic individual and in many Gnostic individuals and in the conscious all which holds and contains them in itself. It is conscious of itself in each Gnostic being and is there one with his own will, and at the same time he is conscious of the same will, the same self and energy variously active in all. Such a Gnostic consciousness and Gnostic will, aware of its oneness in many Gnostic individuals, aware of its concordant totality and the meaning and meeting point of its diversities, must assure a symphonic movement, a movement of unity, harmony, mutuality in the action of the whole. It assures at the same time in the individual a unity and symphonic concord of all the powers and movements of his being. All energies of being seek their self-expression and their highest seek their absolute. This they find in the Supreme Self, and they find at the same time their supreme oneness, harmony and mutuality of united and common self-expression in its all-seeing, all-uniting, dynamic power of self-determination and self-effectuation, the supramental gnosis. Such a Gnostic consciousness and Gnostic will, aware of its oneness in many Gnostic individuals, aware of its concordant totality and the meaning and meeting point of its diversities, must assure a symphonic movement, a movement of unity, harmony, mutuality in the action of the whole. It assures at the same time in the individual a unity and symphonic concord of all the powers and movements of his being. All energies of being seek their self-expression and at their highest seek their absolute. This they find in the Supreme Self, and they find at the same time their supreme oneness, harmony, mutuality of united and common self-expression in its all-seeing, all-uniting dynamic power of self-determination and self-effectuation, the supramental gnosis. Savitri, Book 7, The Book of Yoga, Canto 7, The Discovery of the Cosmic Spirit and the Cosmic Consciousness. Page 552. An impersonal emptiness walked and spoke in her. Something perhaps unfelt, unseen, unknown guarded the body for its future work, or nature moved in her old stream of force. Perhaps she bore, made conscious in her breast, the miraculous nihil, origin of our souls, and source, and sum of the vast world's events. The womb and grave of thought, a cipher of God, a zero circle of being's totality. It used her speech and acted in her acts. It was beauty in her limbs, life in her breath. The original mystery wore a human face. Thus was she lost within to separate self. Her mortal ego perished in God's night. Only a body was left, the ego's shell afloat mid-drift and foam of the world sea. A sea of dream washed by a motionless sense in a figure of unreal reality. An impersonal foresight could already see, in the unthinking knowledge of the Spirit, even now it seemed nigh done, inevitable. The individual die, the cosmos pass. These gone, the transcendental grew a myth. The Holy Ghost without the Father and Son, or a substratum of what once had been, being that never willed to bear a world, restored to its original loneliness, impassive, sole, silent, intangible. Yet all was not extinct in this deep loss. The being travelled not towards nothingness. There was some high surpassing secrecy. And when she sat alone with Satyavan, her moveless mind with his that searched and strove in the hush of the profound and intimate night, she turned to the face of veiled voiceless truth, hid in the dumb recess of the heart, or waiting beyond the last peak climbed by thought. Unseen itself, it sees the struggling world and prompts our quest, but cares not to be found. Out of the distant vast came a reply, something unknown, unreached, unscrutable, sent down the message of its bodiless light. Prayer to the Spirit of Aurobindo on behalf of all the souls who have gathered for the good cause, for the earth consciousness, in order to be awakened. Dear Mother, thou art the sovereign master of our being. Thy law is our law, and with all our strength we aspire to identify our consciousness with thy eternal consciousness, that we may accomplish thy sublime work in each thing and at every moment. Lord, deliver us from all care for contingencies. Deliver us from the ordinary outlook on things. Grant that we may henceforth see only with thy eyes and act only by thy will. Transform us into living torches of thy divine love, with reverence, with devotion, in a joyful consecration of our whole being. We give ourselves, O Lord, to the fulfillment of thy law. Peace, peace upon all the earth, and to all of us who have gathered in the name of Mother and Sri Aurobindo. And we offer our aspiration and prayers for all those who celebrate their new birthday, and greetings from Aurobindo to each one of you. Since this day marks a very significant day, I would like to play just a few moments. If you are interested, you can be with the aspiration. Thank you all. Happy Mahashivaratri. We meet you next time. Thanks for your wishes. Thank you.